Okay, I'm ready.
Yep, and we can get into it. All right, cool. There. That. Let's see if we are connected. Oh, what's up, everybody? It's your boy, Leroy McKenzie Jr., and it's the third Monday, so y'all know what it is. It's the brand new development series coming to you by Black Professional Men and JNF Enterprises, where we want to bring you things that will enlighten you, empower you, and impact you to be able to teach you something, to equip you with something, and impact you to want to do something. And today we're going to do nothing less than that. And the I have a gentleman here that's going to be able to assist me to be able to do that today, and we're going to do it in a big way. We're going to do it in a big way because I need all of my entrepreneurs. I need all of my aspiring entrepreneurs. I need all of my aspiring speakers, all of those that are looking to have their business, their brands, and who they are as people to be able to be tuned into this. I need y'all to not only tune in, but tell everybody, tell your other friends about it because we want them to be tuned into. Get your pen and pads ready because y'all gonna need the whole time to be able to take notes on the information that this brother is about to get you give to you. And he is a brother that is filled with great knowledge, expertise, information. So I want to get right started, and I'm gonna let him introduce himself. But this is he is none other than Mr. Shadeed Eleazer, who is, I'm gonna let him tell you about who he is and um, who he is and what he does, and then we're gonna get into our conversation talking about him being the number one sales. The number one social sales architect. I'm gonna have him talk about what that is. But I want to welcome you, sir, Mr. Shadeed. Welcome to the show. How are you?
It's an honor, a privilege, and a pleasure to be on the brand new airwaves with you and your listeners. Before we begin, I want to share with you the prayer that I tell myself and that I say before I touch any stage or any audience. What I need you guys to understand before we start is that entrepreneurship and ideas, they flow through us. They don't happen to us. So
Mm.
I'm just the conduit, the vessel through which this information is coming through. So I will say that I ask for the strength and the clarity to allow the mission and the message that comes from within to not be blocked by my words. And we're going to let it flow. This is family time. And so let's get into it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's tell the audience. Let's start by telling the audience just a little bit about who you are and a little bit about your background, sir.
Well, when we talk about who I am Baltimore's top small business advisor. I am president of SCORE, which is the consulting division of the Small Business Administration. SCORE is the nation's largest network of certified business mentors. I'm the president of an organization that has up to 67 certified business mentors, many of which are either retired or certified multimillionaires. So the network
Wow.
itself is very powerful, but every present starts with the past. And so
Yeah.
from the time that my 10 toes touched down on planet Earth, I want you to understand this. I was born into a family where ownership was the code.
Mm.
Grandma had a business, uncles had a business. I worked for my mom. My mom worked for me. I've written books and publish books with my uncles. This is the way that we were raised. So when I say that family is the first business, for those of you who seek generational wealth, money may be what your focus is, but if you study the families that have actually achieved it, it all starts with a code of ethics. And we were not rich, but you better believe that we have a code of ethics. And so, just to give you an example, uh, at one point in life, we have a street where my uncles and owned several houses on that particular block.
Okay.
And across the highway, we owned Philly cheesesteak restaurant that was moved down south. So to be in the formative years, no matter what I may have been going through in terms of figuring out life and seeing ownership at the highest level, that always gave me a sense of pride. Actually named it Gladys Town after my grandmother, Gladys
Mhm.
Haynes. And so that's the cloth to which I was cut.
Wow, wow, and that's powerful, and that's awesome. Let me ask you this, and let's start off with this. What was it that that's your lineage and what you kind of grew from? What was it that you learned from that being a young black man with a family that had that lineage? What was it that taught you about entrepreneurship? And even what we're going to get into, what did it teach you about systems, certain systems that got put into place there?
The first system that you must build and maintain is your household.
Mm,
So
mm,
the most common example is this. Let's say Thanksgiving 2020, and I was to go home for Thanksgiving and spend time with the family. And during a casual conversation at Thanksgiving, I mentioned that I went to Home Depot and I picked up some contractors to get some kitchen remodeling done.
okay.
Now, the background story is that my cousin, his name's Steven, shout out, he can build a house with his entire hands. So if I went to the contractors at Home Depot versus going to my cousin and trying to work out a deal first, a civil war would break out at dinner. There would not be a dinner that year. So the
for,
code
for
that was set
sure.
for within the household, within immediate family, I didn't have a ton of friends in my younger life. I had family. And
Mm,
so we spent a lot of time together, and that created my first business network. So when I think about doing partnerships, what this resulted in, to answer your question, is that I partner with a person's values and who they are as
mm,
an individual and what they stand for versus most people partnering with the opportunity, or let's say the quick grab in terms of the money that may be
right.
available or the association with the product or service. So when building systems, you have to think about longevity. What
Mm,
are your underlying values that govern the business that you are going to do? And so with the family and within the family, these are lessons literally uh, 2 weeks ago. Was it 2 weeks? During the family Zoom call, I uttered some words that went outside the family. And those of you who have watched the Godfather, where Michael Corleone uh, mentions to Fredo, what does he say to Fredo? Never go outside the
said the
family.
family.
And when I say that was the code that was established so early in life and up until me being a middle-aged man, it's consistent and has been that way my entire life.
Wow, wow, and that's huge. And I'm gonna say this, and then we'll get into the other stuff, and we may come back to this. But I wish many more of us had that same kind of mindset and even code that we would stick to when it comes to us and our communities, and us when it comes to our businesses and doing business with each other, and having that understanding where, hey, the code is you don't go outside the family, you know, like you said, even within your personal family. Hey, I'm going to check with my own family first to see if I know somebody within the family before I even venture, even think about going and asking somebody else to do something that I know I can have somebody in the family do. Not on the not on the humble, not on the hookup. Somebody that you can legitimate that knows the work, knows what to do, and you're gonna treat them just as any other business person that you deal with, and that becomes a mindset. And I like that about you. That's something that I think that many more of us have to adopt in our entrepreneurship journey and the way that we do business these days, because it's huge, like you said, to partner with values, because a lot of us don't. We want to know what the money is, the money aspect of it, and value doesn't always mean money, you know. So people have to understand that. So let's get into this, because today we're going to be talking about processing systems and all of those things that we need to have in place. But let's begin with entrepreneurship, and I'll ask you this: should aspiring entrepreneurs quit their job, and go full time into their business? Do you think that that's in the climate that we're in? Do you
Mm.
think that that's something that they should be looking to, or aspiring to, looking to do right now?
Okay, so should aspiring entrepreneurs quit their day job and just jump right into business? Well, okay, this question reflects a shift in cultural awareness of what entrepreneurship is. Let's say
Mm,
uh, in times past, 90s, 2000s, let's say when I was young, it was a measure of bravado and pride to form your own path to the point where if somebody had a job and they were building a brain that may be public, they would actually lie about being a full, let's say, having a job and building a business. They would actually
mm,
lie about it. They would hide the fact that they're working at a job. And
mm,
so I would say nowadays it's different where because of the ease of being able to start up a business and where the economy is now, I would say this: allow your job to fire you. And
mm,
of course, there's going to be a point in time for those of you who are watching this, or those of you who watch the replay, you're going to reach a time in your business where being in that office or being on the clock, no matter what you're doing, it's an opportunity cost where if I was not here, I could be fulfilling more orders, making more calls, putting together more content. And once you reach that point where the numbers dictate your
mm,
next move, and that all starts with planning your exit strategy. So getting an idea what your expenses are, getting an idea of what the business is generating, and doing your projections from there in terms of what is an hour worth versus 3 hours versus 8 hours at the job. That determines when it's time to go. I would say keep that job until the job is no longer needed because the income is continuing to grow. Keep the job.
yeah, and even that goes into what we're talking about tonight, having the system. You talking about having that exit strategy. How do you plan to leave that job? Like I said, it's more than just saying, "Hey, okay, I'm not going back." What plan do you have in place for you to be able to replace that money that full-time job has come to be for you? and
Mm-hmm.
and if that income hasn't been replaced, then then you need to make plans so that it can be replaced, you know,
Exactly.
in order to be able to do that. So I think that's important, and for people to be able to understand that. And that's a good answer. What should entrepreneurs do to begin to build their infrastructure or processing systems? What are their first steps that they should go to?
Okay. It's very important when you are beginning to build your infrastructure. One bit of advice that I would recommend is to begin with the end in mind. Build with the
Mm,
intent to sell. Now, there's two types of potential business outcomes. And in my conversations and strategy sessions with business owners, they oftentimes don't realize what the end goal for their business is.
mm,
So, one potential path is to build to sell, to be acquired by a parent company. The other path is to build for your children's children's children. So it's either build for acquisition, or build for legacy. And those of you who are tuning in, I want you to make that decision today by the end of this broadcast. What are you building for? Are you building for legacy, or are you building to be acquired? Now,
Mm.
the secret here is that all roads, you should build with a checklist in mind so that you can be acquired if you want to be. It's always great to receive offers. Now, we're going to dive deeper into this and get into some tangibles here. So, I say build with the end in mind. We're going to go deeper into recurring revenue and making community impact. So we're going to use what's called the Power 10 framework. Write this down. Power 10 framework. The 10 in the Power 10 framework is an acronym. So the T stands for teach. You're going to utilize your primary knowledge, your skills, your ability, or the knowledge that you've taken to build a product to create digital assets. So you're going to utilize digital assets, which can be a course, which can be a blog, which can be a channel, or basically package your knowledge, skills, and abilities in a way that duplicates the time that you would spend saying the same things over and over and over again, package it into content and distribute it online so that every time that someone is searching online, and a pro tip, there are millions of searches being done every day looking for the problem that you have the unique abilities to solve. So you want to cast your rod into that sea of opportunity. So you're going to package and create digital assets. So that's the teach part of it. You have the knowledge. You've already built all the experience that's needed to build that business. You're going to package it, teach. Next is empower. If your business is not empowering the next generation of those who aspire to be like you and those who would benefit by the, let's say, the value of your business, then your business is pointless. It
Mm.
does not exist for any greater good. So, what you have to understand when you're building your infrastructure is what a business actually is. By having a business, you are a job creator. Even if you start off creating a job for yourself, you are part of the economic heartbeat of your community. So if you're the economic heartbeat of your community, it would be the same example of I have a school. I'm the principal of a school, but I don't allow any students in the school. But wait a minute, you are part of the educational
Yes.
heartbeat of your community. So if you're the economic heartbeat of your community, why are you not creating a cycle of giving within your business? Now, there's some of you who are watching this broadcast, listening to this broadcast, and your process is all in your brain, meaning you feel that you're the best at it and you don't trust, you got trust issues with what you've built, and you don't want to let the next generation come in because you feel they're going to mess it up if they adjust something a certain way or they send out the post a certain way. You feel that you have your unique flavor on it. And here's what I have to let you know is that the business that you're building is not unique or not original to the point where it can't be duplicated or that what you're doing can't be taught. You have to adjust your thinking to what I'm doing today is designed to empower the generations of the future. So empower means package your system and make sure it's distributed via a process that anyone with reading comprehension can follow. I am ex-military, Leroy, and when you go to the military, they have standard operating procedures, which means if you made it into this military and you can follow the basic guidelines that got you here, you can operate this equipment. If you go to any fast food restaurant, McDonald's and Burger King, to be specific, they have operating manuals where anyone who can read can operate that broiler steamer or that drop those baskets of fries and make filet of fish. And why is your business not empowering the next generation of leaders? When a farmer plants seeds, they don't just say, well, there's no more crops anymore. The first, just for the farmer, and that's it.
Right.
So let's think in terms of regeneration, we are producing new leaders. Next, the N. So we've covered teach, empower, and the N in the Power 10 framework is network. So what you want to create is a framework for like-minded people to build deeper connections with in the concept of your business that establishes it as an industry leader. So you're able to bring the new members in terms of interns, in terms of people who are looking for guidance, and connect them with the established leaders and create new leaders and new partnerships. By simply having a business and building an infrastructure, you need to be focused on the ecosystem that you're creating around the nucleus, which is your business, so that when you need to find new talent and grow your business, you're reaching out to a warm network versus a cold network. Businesses are the heartbeat of the community. So your business needs to be established within the community. Within that community, it is a network of people who will benefit from your presence and continued operations.
You made me think about two things. One, when you talked about those systems, and you mentioned that. Now, mention one, and I was thinking about this before we came on, and I was as I was going through the questions, and you mentioned the fast food chain, and my major was hotel restaurant management in college, and that's what I graduated with. But one of the top kind of like the top, if, to me, was the number one company that had that premise that you just talked about. That system was Marriott, because you could go into any Marriott and their standard operating procedures, you're going to get the same service, that same front desk operating procedures. The reservations was going to operate in the same way, even the getting your room done. All of those things were a system, a processing system, and a way of doing things in order to be able to create what they created, the Marriott's created. So it's awesome, in what you were talking about there, with understanding what you do as a company, and being able to think in those terms, because I guarantee you, any of the companies that have been around and been around for years and years and years, I promise you, if you look at their system, their infrastructure, and their systems, they're top notch. They're things like you just said. They create a system that they can draw from. And even if you want to take it into the sporting world, and I think that they kind of went away from it. And I don't know if you remember back in the day, most baseball, and they still do, most baseball teams had what they called a farm system. You know, the farm system was so that they could groom people, to be able to groom the players to be able to come up into the major leagues. It's the same exact thing that you were just talking about. And it made me think about that when you were talking about that, because it's a cycle. It becomes the cycle where you have something to pull from, and it's not a cold, you're not grooming cold people. You have a warm, what you call the warm, a warm system that you're pulling from to be able to bring those next players up into your major league franchise. But you got to take the time to even to develop that farming system, in order to be able to make the franchise, the big franchise, work even well. That way you don't have those gaps in your company kind of faltering and everything like that. It kind of, the leadership doesn't lose anything because you have people that are older and they're retiring or whatever, or people leave. You have people that are being groomed to step right in. And I've said that too, about that's one of the things that I truly believe that we're dropping the ball on, when it comes to business, when it comes to just building the older generation, which is leaving out of industries nowadays. They aren't properly grooming people to, the next generation to take over. And as a consequence, you have what I call people being put into these positions that either aren't taught how to properly lead, or what I've said, they aren't they aren't equipped to lead. They don't need to be in the positions at all, because they're just not leadership material. So it's important what you just said. I think that was great, and it just made me think about that baseball farming system, and how important that was for baseball teams in order for them to be successful. Because if you look at the Yankees, probably the best organization in baseball, they were successful because of their farming system that they had, I believe. You know,
Excellent analogy. Excellent analogy. Excellent.
I mean, that's just that is awesome. That's an awesome example that you gave there. So, what kinds of processing systems um, should a business what are the kinds of processing systems that a business should have in place or put in place to provide sustainability, do you think, to give them that warm system, that warm farming system, as we talked about?
Well, it's all about connection. And
Okay.
when we talk about system, we must think assets. If we're going to build a business to sell or be acquired, the first place I would start is my email list. So the reason why email is so valuable is because even in the era of having more ways to communicate and convey a message than ever in the history of recorded civilization, email still is the most personal. Meaning,
Hmm.
when an email is sent, the inbox is still a guarded area.
Okay.
And in a world where if you receive a knock on your door right now, many of you watching this will not answer that door if you don't know who it is. You just won't. That's number one. Number two, if someone calls you and you don't recognize the number, is felt as an intrusion of privacy. And so you receive a random text message and it's someone you don't recognize and they just say, hey, then you say, well, let me just delete that. But with email, you have to address it, meaning it's something that you have to at least take a look at and
Mm-hmm.
physically, manually delete in order to deal with. And by the numbers, for every dollar that is spent in, let's say, email marketing, it is a return on investment of $38. So
Really? Oh,
when it
wow.
comes to social media versus email, email still delivers the highest return on investment amongst all marketing channels. So those are a few aspects. Now let's dive deeper into this. When you have an email list, what this provides you is an asset that does the following. It allows you to have a deeper connection with your audience in a secure channel.
Okay.
With email, there's permission-based marketing. The CAN Spam Act made it illegal to just send emails to people. So you have to have two forms of approval before someone can receive an email. So as long as you're following the law, then people have given you permission to share those messages with them. So that would be the first thing. Next, aside from the marketing aspect, because we're in business and the purpose of business is to turn a profit, you can have not only sales emails from your business, which can include sales and bundled offers depending on the time of the year, but also you can expand your brand and bring on promotional partners and affiliate partners where when you share their particular offer, you gain a percentage on every product or service that is sold. So you can build partnerships within that 10 framework within that network and utilize promotional calendar to share through your email list. So by simply having an email list, it gives you the opportunity to share your message, build a deeper connection with your audience, generate or monetize that email list through your offers. Or if you're not ready to create offers, you can utilize your network's offers or established networks such as Amazon or ClickBank and others to basically, or udemy.com if you like courses, to establish various streams of income from one email list. Next, I would say if you have your email list already set, I would also look into your customer relationship management system or your CRM system. The pipeline that goes from your one-time customer to customer lifetime value, which is a key metric if you're going to build a long-term business or be acquired by another business, is a very important area. So your customer relationship management system allows you to track the relationship and document the relationship through the customer life cycle. Where many of our businesses fall short is they celebrate at the point of sale, where yes, I made the sale, and then they go away. But what you have to realize is that at the point of sale, you have up to a 60% greater chance to increase the sale by offering a complementary or let's say a higher value product through an upsell or a cross sell opportunity. So again, going back to our fast food restaurant, when you go to McDonald's and you order a Big Mac, the next question is, do you want fries with that? Or do you want to order a combo meal? Would you like to go large, extra value meal? And so the reason why this is so important, because with the cost of marketing, of course, the cost to acquire a customer is going to be a fixed number. And by offering complementary products, you increase what's called your average order value. And again, when your company is being built for longevity, having your AOV or average order value and knowing those numbers puts you ahead of just about 90% of your competitors within your market, because most people don't spend the time to measure their particular numbers. So I would say next would be your bookkeeping and accounting systems. I'll tell you a story. One of the biggest mistakes that I've ever made in my life. I'm going to try to tell this story as quickly as possible. During my first 3 to 6 months in business, I would say I met with a gentleman. He made $12 million that year. If you met him, he's in Maryland, he's out there on the Beltway. Uh, if you met him, you would not assume that he was that successful, but he was. I was actually introduced to him by a mutual acquaintance, and the word on the streets or on the wire was that I was launching my own firm. And now this was after years of building up equity in my community and within my industry by hosting events. So anyone who was in this industry knows who I was. So in that case, he listened to my plan. He said, "Look, you're going to be based on your timeline, you're going to be successful very quickly. You need to plan ahead." And I said, well, in my head, I said, are you going to give me the contract or not? Is there some work for me here or not? Because you needed some contracts at that time. So the moment I left that particular office, literally, I got off the elevator, I received a phone call for the project that became the official website of Maryland, which changed my whole trajectory as we know it.
Oh wow.
And so the point being is that I went from okay money to straight to the moon overnight. And my my bookkeeping and accounting systems were not ready for this blessing. I thought that my little H&R Block certification, reading tax books in the military was going to cover.
They weren't ready for that, huh?
What came my way, and I looked at my bankruptcy as a whoa, and I thought I was in a rap video or something. So the lesson is that even if you are qualified to do your own taxes, you should separate from that and hire someone, the best person you can afford, who wakes up looking for different loopholes and reading up the different tax code, and they get excited by helping their clients save money. You want to hire somebody who looks at, they have a board and they say, I've saved my clients $5 million this year. That is not you. That is not where your gifts are centered. And that was the biggest mistake and the biggest lesson I can share with you on this particular topic.
Yeah. Wow. Well, and I think that a lot of entrepreneurs underestimate that. They underestimate. Everybody wants to be big, but they don't understand that sometimes even when you do want it, you may not necessarily be ready for it from um, a, a a standpoint of being able to handle the amount of work that comes with it, or even like you said, not even having the systems in place to be able to properly deal with it. So that's very important for people to be able to understand that. Be careful what you ask for because you just might get it. So you have to, like the gentleman gave you a great piece of advice, you got to be ready for it. You have to, you need to be prepared for it. That means thinking, and this is what I learned in college, and this our dean taught us all the way this. He gave us the bell curve analogy. And what he told us is, as hotel restaurant management majors, we were to always be thinking ahead of the bell curve. You never wanted to be on top of the curve or behind the curve. You always want to be in front of the curve. That's thinking 5 years, 10 years down the road, so that you're prepared for things that may come along. And I've always adopted that philosophy that he has, thinking not just for today, but where do I see 5 years from now? Where's the industry going that I want to be a part of? And I even did it coming out of college, because in the late '90s, going into the 2000s, hotel restaurant management was at, I mean, that thing was, it was booming. It was on a great trajectory at that time. It was one of the best industries that you could be a part of because hotels were popping up everywhere. So it was something that, as an industry, we knew that it was going to be where it was going. But you had to think beyond. We were always taught to think beyond that too. Okay, if we see ourselves 5 years now, where's it going to be 10 years from now? That way, you kind of can adjust and see the things that may be coming for you. So that's important that people do that. So, what's the key to developing the right processing system? Because we know that everybody can adopt that cookie cutter
Mhm.
mentality, because what works for you may not work for me, what may work for me may not work for you. What's the key to kind of understanding what processing system works best for you?
You want to know the biggest inefficiency in business today?
What's
It's
that?
software. It's
Oh,
software.
wow. Mm-hmm.
Software. People, business owners spend money, waste money
Mm-hmm.
on software that does the following. Number one would be those who buy systems based on the moment and
Mm-hmm.
not the long term. So
Wow.
uh, what ends up happening is, and I evaluate businesses. So part of the evaluation is software. So they buy systems where two of the features or functions are similar, and they don't look at the full feature set to understand what is involved. So, for example, if you buy ClickFunnels and then you end up buying lead pages at the same time, and you end up with two, let's say, similar products in terms of building landing pages.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you don't need the funnel capability of ClickFunnels. And these are areas where you end up spending so much. The second area would be the buying. So the people who go all in on a particular software platform and then don't turn on the features.
Mm-hmm.
One area of advice that will save you 5 to 6 figures over your business life. I said 5 to 6 figures. If you listen to what I'm going to share with you, is that when you buy, before you buy, you want to make sure that the person selling you this particular software is willing to get on a series of calls to provide setup and implementation support. I said the person who is selling you the software, of course, they want to make the sale. So to incentivize them to make the sale, they need to provide setup and implementation support. It should be
Mm-hmm.
done online via video, or they should log in and walk you through the setup process. What tends to happen is business owners are great at what they do, but they are not great at putting those things to the side and focusing on being a software engineer.
Mm-hmm.
So they buy the system and they have all the intentions in the world of implementing it for the first 48 hours. then life gets in the way, and then things fall to the side, and now they've wasted money on another system. 6 months from now, they go to an event, they watch a webinar, and they get excited about a shiny new tool or object, and then
Yeah.
they buy that system, and then they find out, wait a minute, these two systems do the same thing, and they've wasted money over time. So I would say if there was one aspect that a business owner needs to plan for is the 18 to 24 months after the software is implemented. So there's a golden thinking in itself is an infrastructure. Thinking in itself is a system. Planning in itself is a long-term system. So what I want you to think about is the problems that will be created by the solution that is the software. So, what new problems, what 5 new problems will be created when this software is deployed or installed? And if you think beyond the today and what you're excited about, then you can think about the add-ons, then you can think about the, let's say, the pro license or the advanced license, and that will help you make a more comprehensive and clear business buying decision.
Wow, that's good. That's good. That's good. That's good. And that's great for people to be able to understand. I hope y'all taking notes because I'm taking notes, even myself. What advice would you give to an aspiring entrepreneur who is looking to start a business and developing their infrastructure?
If an aspiring entrepreneur is looking to start a business,
Mm-hmm.
I would work in an existing business. I would build relationships with people who are at the top of the industry that I'm looking to be a part of. That means going to lunch. That means going to industry events. That means picking up the phone and offering to be of service to someone who's already established. That would be the very first steps that I would do before I launch any business. What often happens is we operate based on the law of bright ideas. So I want to do this, but what I want to do may not be what the market is calling for.
Mm.
And other companies that we look at and say, well, they're doing it. Maybe they got involved during a golden period. Maybe they're burning through resources and we don't know it. So, what the market calls for is what dictates what is built or what service is delivered. So, in order to be informed with decisions, you have to, number one, get in the game and get into the industry. Number two, you need to do your homework and your research. The cheapest way to do this research is on someone else's dime. So
Mm.
that means in service of another company
Right.
and a role with, let's say, a company that is already active in this field. Build those relationships. They will help you as you launch your particular venture.
Now we can't stress enough that word that you just said, relationships. Relationships, relationships, relationships. And that's one of the things that I've been telling people about. Relationships create resources, which in turn create results. I'm gonna say that again for y'all. Relationships create resources, which create results.
Hmm.
You get those three, they come together. Your relationships will develop the resources that you're able to have at your disposal. And those resources turn into results that you may need in order to be able to get things done. So that's really important. And then speaking of that, what do business owners need to do if they want to get their processing system in place, um, or do to ensure that they have the correct system in place? What are some of the things that they can kind of look at, if they already have something in place, or if they don't have something in place? What do they need to do to begin to start to say, hey, wow, this is what I need to kind of implement and get started into my business to make it more successful?
I'm a believer of going back to the beginning of this conversation. What I attempted to do was give you, through the example of family, some timeless business advice.
Mm-hmm.
You hit it right on the head where relationships. A software purchase, a systems purchase is the beginning of a relationship. And I want to take a moment right now to acknowledge my dear mother. And let me tell you something, Leroy. My mother is the type of individual, the type of lady where if she spends money with you, you are held to the fire.
Mm.
That means the board of directors, the president, letters are being written. Listen, she watches a commercial with the brand she supports, and if it's out of line, a letter is being fired off, and you'd be surprised at the results that I've seen her generate by taking this active approach on the customer. Is
Mm.
not necessarily always right, but the customer is a partner in a relationship. And so when you are buying software, when you're buying systems, you cannot be a passive passenger
Mm.
in the seat of your business.
Come
That
on.
does not mean being a tyrant. It does not mean being disorderly and rude. That means, hello, I have purchased this software. I need the setup guide. I need a member of your technical team to review my implementation. Here's my calendar link. Let's set up a time to walk through my system. I paid for this system. I'm not getting the results that was promised or sold to me. We need to review this.
Mm.
If you, as the consumer, the business owner, cannot receive the support from the company who sold you that license for that software, then you need to, another lesson I learned, vote with your dollars
Yep.
and take your business to a place where a company, a vendor that will respect your position. Now, I will say this with full transparency. I understand that in many cases, you may not have seen your particular rights as a consumer, as a customer, as a purchaser of software exercise. So you may not know the right way to resolve things. But I will say that by simply establishing a relationship with customer support in any instance where you're a VIP or pro customer, you purchase the additional license for that system, you need to do the checks and balances on what you received and maintain an active relationship. Most companies these days, they have some form of customer support. That may be a Facebook group, that may be a bot that you can communicate with and get updates and access to a knowledge base. But the days of being the passive observer and allowing for companies to run over you, those are over. Again, you as a business owner are the economic heartbeat of your community. So you need to be up and running because you, at your best, are a job creator. So an empowerment, you're an empowerment temple. So you need to act as such.
Actually, absolutely. I couldn't add anything more to that. I think that's excellent, and we have to understand that as a customer or client, you have the right to do that because it's your money that's being spent. So if you're not getting the quality service that you were told that you were going to get, and you're not getting the service that you were told that you were going to get, then yes, by any means, you have all rights to say, you know what, I need this, this, and this. You told me I was going to get this, this, and this. And if I'm not, then I have the right, hey, I need to get my money back or some form of compensation for not being able to receive that service that you provided. And speaking of product and services, let's talk a little bit about you, because we want to talk about you and your business. What products and services does your company provide and offer to entrepreneurs or businesses and individuals?
Well, on the business growth side of things, I have the rapid revenue strategy call. And what I guarantee based on 1,532 calls in the last 12 months, Leroy McKenzie Jr., is that I can find the missing $10,000 in your business
Wow.
in 20 minutes or less. Typically about
Wow.
8 or 9 minutes once I understand what your story is, but 20 minutes or less. It is a recorded call up to 45 minutes. We go on a video, walk through your situation, give you an action plan. It's followed up with a recording, a written plan of action, and the option to step forward with implementation support, and that is available for freelancers, for coaches, experts, consultants, service and product based businesses. We review the sales process, upsells, downsells, email marketing. If you have a business and it needs to, let's say, have an infusion of revenue, I will help you find it.
Mm. Y'all hear that? He gonna help you find the money. You say where the money? Show me the money. He's gonna show you the. He's gonna show you the money. Now, um, how does your business assist other entrepreneurs achieve their goals?
Well, my business helps entrepreneurs achieve their goals in that I focus on the high performance entrepreneur who has the credibility, who has the, let's say, notoriety, the expertise, but when it comes to their bank account or their ability to monetize that audience, that influence,
Mm.
there's a disconnect, meaning there's an imposter syndrome. Because if you're famous or you're known or you have, let's say, a following, but your ability to monetize that is not met, then it creates a disconnect. So I help to balance that out by creating the systems,
Mm.
creating the structure that allows for transformation to take place. And that transformation that takes place is for the first time they're able to see beyond the immediate food, clothing, and shelter needs. And now they can see the ability to hire specialists, to look into charitable causes they support, and to have a greater impact because now they have the influence, the revenue, the income in order to do these things. So when it comes to reputation converting into monetization, there is none better in the great state of Maryland.
I like that, and that's why he's the number one social. So, what is it? The number one social
Sales.
sales architect. That's what I was missing. Social sales architect. So believe that. So how can people connect with you in order to be able to get on the right track and be able to, like you said, find that money or implement the correct processing systems? How can they connect with you in order to?
Well, the journey starts, Leroy. First of all, I thank you for the opportunity to share my message, my mission, my values, my story with your audience. And my hope is that there was some tangible takeaways from this experience. Now, for those of you who are looking to take your business from where it is to where it needs to go, you have greater plans, you have greater opportunities, you have greatness within you. And that starts by my daily accountability journal. So I'm going to give you the gift of accountability through my daily accountability journal. Now, the value of this is that I personally use this every day. It was something that I used to write on paper. And one of my design teams said, wait a minute, this process works. We need to create a whole system around this. And so we built a system. And so the daily accountability journal is helps you to solidify the contracts that you keep with yourself in relation to the world around you. So when you say you're going to do something, you give yourself a grade for that day. There is no passing grade below C. So if you get a C on this particular grading scale, you failed. Either you do it or you don't. And when you get into the framework of grading yourself each and every day, it helps you to make bigger commitments, show up bigger in the world. And when you show up bigger in the world, your income, your influence begins to scale and increase, and you make a greater impact on the world. Now, the next step with that is to go to mrshadeed.com /accountability. And Mr. Shadeed is spelled MRSHA like Apple, D like David, EED like David.com /accountability. And what this will do is enroll you automatically into my business advisor report. Now, what that is my ongoing series of entrepreneurial lessons that are written in real time. So as I'm experiencing the journey, as I'm speaking with millionaires and those who are influencers making impact, I extract the teachable lesson and I share it only with this community. And it is free to join. But what I'm giving you is $53,324 of non-refundable resources, tips, tools, templates to help you grow on your journey. And again, it starts by going to mrshadeed.com /accountability.
I like that. I like that. So y'all got that, and we'll make sure that, that's along with this video here too, for people that will they'll be able to watch the replay, but then also for those that may be on now and not able to catch it. But because we definitely want people to be able to connect with you, because this is some awesome stuff, and I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come and grace this platform with your knowledge, your information, and your resources. I like that line, that line that Jay-Z used in his song, OJ, or whatever the name of it is. He said, I'm giving you $1 million worth of knowledge for $9.99." So you got to understand that the information that this gentleman is giving to you all has a value to it, and it's way beyond what you all could even fathom or even think. And if you want to get your business to that next level, you have to be willing to invest in it. And investing in your business means you need to be speaking with and paying for the time of gentlemen like Mr. Shadeed, who will get you to where it is that you want to be, and ensure that you have the tools, equip you with those tools in order to be able to do that. So I want to thank you again for joining us. I want to thank y'all for listening and watching. Please like, share, subscribe, comment, all of those good things, because this will be on my YouTube channel, the JNF Enterprises. Mr. Shadeed will have it on his as well if he wants to have that too. So you can do that. Do me a favor, give out your the information where people can check out other content that you may have that you share with people and stuff like that.
It all starts from my website,
Okay.
mrshadeed.com, and on, let's say, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook, it is Mr. Shadeed. That is MRSHA, D like David, EED like David. Start at the website because social media is rented land. And so, as Leroy said, he mentioned the Jay-Z line, and I have one for you as well. Jay-Z, the great Sean Carter, once said, "No one will fall because everyone will be each other's crutches." And when you build your team, when you build your network, when you build your power circle, you can't fail because your brother or your sister will be there to hold you down. Build your team.
Absolutely. I couldn't say that better. Build your team. And this week, I've been telling people to focus on um, my focus is being putting people in position to achieve their greatness. And this is one of those things that people need to do in order to be able to put themselves in the position to be successful, but to achieve the greatness that we know that's inside of them and that they want to achieve with their businesses. So take heed, y'all. I want to thank y'all for tuning in. This is your boy, Leroy McKenzie Jr., with the brand new development series brought to you again by Black professional men, of which both myself and Mr. Shadeed are a part of. So this is it's a great organization to be a part of as men, ensuring the future of the African American male. And we want our communities to be stronger. And we know that it's important of us as Black men to be strong as well. And as long as we're strong, we build strong businesses, which build strong families, which build strong communities. And that's what we're about. And my company, JNF Enterprises. So we'll see you all next month, actually tomorrow, because I have another one that I'm doing tomorrow live. So you all can tune in for that as well. But as I always say, we're in 2020, y'all. We're moving fast and furious with purpose and passion. And as I always say, chase the impact, because when you chase the impact, you change the world. And people like Shadeed change the world because they are impact changers. So we'll talk to y'all soon. See y'all next time.